All right, welcome everybody to the live stream and giveaway. Okay, how's everybody doing today? Let me know how you're doing in the chat so I know it's working here. Yes, all right, Roger. Shrimp. Yeah, I saw 5Z in the chat too. I got to say, I have never seen so many bird emojis in my chat. This is pretty awesome. Looks like the Dirt Poor Robins posses represent. Cool. You guys, thank you so much for joining. This is a special event. I was just reflecting beginning of this year that this YouTube channel started 5 years ago in the year 2020. Beautiful year. And I've just been so filled with gratitude. Like, this is just amazing to me that so many, thousands of people now are supporting, and the encouragement over the years to come out with podcasts and essays and creative work and books and all of that has just been just overwhelming and encouraging in so many ways in my life. So today's going to be a fun day. Today's going to be very fun, and it's all about you guys. So I invited a special guest that are going to be joining just a matter of minutes. We should be expecting Neil DeGraides as well as Kate, and a very special guest whose initials might be JP. So we'll see. And then we also have a giveaway, and Neil was so generous because he's been, I guess you could call him a friend of the podcast because he's been on here a bunch of times. And he said, you know what? It's been so great, the support and, just sharing the word, sharing the story, sharing the meaning behind music and having deep conversations, that the subscribers on the channel have been so great. He actually gave a gift. He gave this gift of a Dirt Poor Robins, his limited edition Dead Horse vinyl. And not just that, but it's actually signed too. So Kate and Neil signed it. And I just was like, oh my gosh, this is perfect timing because we had just crossed 2,000 subscribers. So it just seemed like the timing was right. It was like, let's thank them. Let's give them a chance to win some amazing art and music. And let's just have a party. So I just celebrate you guys. Thank you so much. So we're going to be doing a raffle style. So at the appointed time, we'll give you guys instruction. Should be about 15 minutes into the chat. Once we invite our guests and get the party rolling, we'll start our giveaway. And then we'll do a second one because he's like, you know what? It's 2,000 subscribers. You got to be offering two things, right? And so his latest record, Firebird, he's going to be, man, Neil, you're just such a generous guy. So he's going to be giving you guys a chance to win that in addition to the Dead Horse album. So that's coming up. And then we'll have a discussion with all the guests along the way. And then make sure to send in questions, any like super chats or anything like that. And we'll try to get to them at the end. We'll see what our time schedule is for our guest. And then I'll stick around for a little bit later too. I also wanted to thank a friend and collaborative partner in the Symbolic World Arts Collaborative, Gareth. He's behind the scenes. He'll be popping in and out as well. And he'll be moderating and making sure everything runs smoothly. So can't thank you enough, Gareth, for stepping up and help facilitating this time. All right, you guys. So with that, I'm going to just say, one last thank you. You guys are awesome. This started out with just seeing what was happening in the world, those couple of years leading up to it. Jordan Peterson came onto the scene, very influential figure. I saw all these people, sharing ideas, and I thought, I have some things to contribute, and was very exploratory. And so I was like, well, I have a few insights into this book, Language of Creation by this guy, Matthew Pajot. And man, people just found that really helpful. That led to conversations with people like Neil, as well as Jonathan Pajot and many others in this space. And it influenced me to connect with other artists in that space who become lifelong friends. We got together a year ago at the Symbolic World Summit over in Florida. And man, I got to tell you what, like that, it really encouraged me to, pursue the higher things and to go for glory, go for big projects, these things that, ideas that they just really need to be expressed. They need to be heard. And I really wouldn't be here without the encouragement and support from everybody. So thank you for that. With that, I am going to invite our guests to the stage. Neil, Kate, welcome to the stream party. What's up, guys?
I'm so glad you did that little trip down memory lane, because I was going to do it if you didn't, because that's the first time I saw you was that video where you did the review of The Language of Creation. And I mean, you wrapped your head around it really well, and it was like an instant subscribe for me. I was like, I like this guy, I want to know this guy, I'm glad he's here, I'm glad he's alive. And then we get to know you over time in person. So I consider you an IRL friend, if you want to put it that way. But Derek's one of those people, it's like, if I met someone who didn't like Derek, they're out. Yeah, like, because you're one of those people, if you're so pleasant and likable and like caring, and you're one of the best listeners I've ever been around, because I can talk and just go forever.
Yes, you can.
And you're there with me. I don't know how you do it. It's a gift.
It's like peanut butter and jelly.
Anyway, I can't say enough good things about you, but the channel's super cool. You've had some great interviews over the years, and we're happy that you're a friend of our band and we're a friend of your channel. That's good. That's cool for us.
Thanks for having us on. This is great.
Yeah. Kate, how are you doing?
Very good. Just happy to be here.
All right. How are the kiddos doing?
They're awesome. What is that?
That's an alarm going off on an iPad. Can you find that and kill it, buddy?
Yeah. So yeah, kids are having iPad problems.
Yeah, no, it's
everybody's great. They're I guess we have spring break down here, so they're kind of going in every direction.
So. I imagine spring break in Florida. It's a happening place.
Yeah, a few blocks away from Daytona Beach. A little crazy.
Yeah, Daytona is, Portlandia is the spirit of the 90s, is alive in Portland. Daytona is the spirit of the 80s. Yep. It never changed. It's so Firebird. I think it's part of Firebird having sort of this throwback, a little bit synthwave, like 80s prog moments, is completely influenced by our environment. It just made sense. Driving around with the windows down through Daytona Beach was like, oh, we need to make an 80s record.
The sky's pastel every day.
Yeah.
Bring on the key car.
Yeah. So.
All right. Yeah.
We got that going on.
Yeah. So Neil, the first time we talked, you were just coming out with Dead Horse. You were coming out with lyric videos. And man, when I saw But Never a Key, it was just like, oh my goodness. It was like taking all these really cool ideas and what was happening in the world. And it was like, you already had a song about it. It was just amazing.
Hey, well, that was weird, right? That was weird timing. It worked out good for us. But I think I said this first time I was on, the Symbolic World, Jonathan's channel, when he had me on for the first time. It was one of those moments where it was like, I was kind of excited that I saw it coming, but then I was sad about what was there. At the same, so it was kind of like, oh no, I was right, like in a way. So when I worked on that record, it was a little mixed emotions, because I was like, oh, well, there was like an intuition to kind of anticipate where things were heading, but at the same time, it was kind of like I didn't like where things were heading. So that was kind of a weird moment.
Yep.
Yeah.
People get a little nervous about your stories now.
But never
waiting to see if they're going to actually happen.
I'm going to drop an Easter egg I don't think I've ever dropped. Is how I came up with the idea for the hook of that song, the final line, like the don't lift a finger, your warden provides all you'll need, but never a key. Mm-hmm. I was like, I need a really good punchline, like that's kind of like jabs you at the end to make the point. And I was trying to think about it, but I knew the song was about the story Flowers for Algernon. And so I picked up the book and I was looking for an answer for that question. And the author's name is Daniel Keyes. So, But Never a Key was actually a play off of his name, is where I got the idea from, which was kind of weird. Yeah.
Awesome.
So it's got like that extra heat, that extra layer of weirdness and meaning. Anyway, hi Kate.
Hi Neil.
How are you doing?
It's very punny of you.
No, that was not a pun. So anyway.
Yeah. Hey, well, you guys, I hear that you're housing one more special guest that's going to be joining us.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. But we're going to have to do a reveal here because we don't. Okay. He's shy.
He's shy.
He's shy.
Very shy.
You remember in the movie Queen of the Night that for just a few frames, Oliver Graves turned into a spider.
Oh my God.
Luckily enough, this is our neighbor.
Oh man.
Yeah, he's definitely falls into the category of Florida man.
Yeah, right over the pie when you guys moved in, right?
Yeah. Does the chat know who's actually under this mask yet? Does anyone know in the chat?
I don't know. Maybe we can get some guests. I
Let's
will
get some
say,
guesses
whenever I did the video essays for the Queen of the Night film, man,
Yeah.
that was like 2 frames max that you flash the Iraqi mask, and it was like, I thought I saw it, and then it's slow. It took me 10 minutes. I got it. All right.
Yeah, the spider layer is not that
That's
well
great.
hidden in the film because, like, obviously the overhead view of the city is this is awkward. No, I love it. Was a web, and then he has a spider brooch, and if a lady sees a spider, outside in the daylight, she will leave him be. So there was this spider thread, and I kind of like that for the vampiric quality of it. So anyway,
Right.
now you get to
We
be
have
the
people
actor
sweating here.
who played the spider at this moment.
Unveil.
Hey, everyone.
Ta-da!
Hey, it's Jonathan
Welcome,
Pajot!
Jonathan Pajot in the house.
Yeah,
In the house,
it's not really
literally.
Pajot. This is AI Pajot.
That's right.
He goes
Oh,
by
yeah.
the name Jonathan Pajon. And
He likes baguettes.
I've been spending hours training a holographic AI on Jonathan. And so we're going to see if he can actually pull this off tonight.
Yeah.
Symbolism and symbolism. Very important. Symbolism.
Fractals.
Fractals.
Chairs.
Watch out. There's
is
going to be a double mask. It's happening.
It's good to see you, Derek. And congratulations on reaching 2,000 subscribers. That's awesome.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah. And just thanks you for the friendship and the being able to share conversations with folks. It's just been a real blessing.
Yeah, great stuff. Yeah.
How are you doing?
And you guys have been there from the beginning. I mean, like really quite early. And I've been really amazed to see people around the symbolic world kind of developing their own vision and their own niche and kind of expanding the discussion around this transformation that's happening in culture and the transformation that's happening in worldview. And glory to God that you've been able to participate in that.
Yeah. And thank you for being faithful all these years too, man. Just been a reliable friend and teacher, helping out people for, over 7 years. It's amazing.
That's crazy. It's been that long now.
That is
Yeah.
great.
I remember I was, I was kind of in the wilderness over at University of California, Davis, and went to take this, how to be a good community director, community nonprofit leader. Turned out that the program was hijacked by neo-Marxist postmodernists.
Yeah.
And I didn't know it because I didn't have those words at the time. And so I was looking up, I had just read the Brothers Karamazov. I don't know if I told you this yet. I was reading the Brothers Karamazov, and I was like, this book is freaking amazing. And it has that treatise on love by the elders. And so then that tied me to one of my teachers for religious studies course that I was taking for fun. Turns out she was an Orthodox member of the Orthodox Church. And so that kind of like started priming the pump in that way. And then, so I was like, man, I got to learn more about this Dostoevsky guy. And that was when Jordan Peterson started releasing his lectures. And so I was like, oh, cool. There's a guy talking about Dostoevsky and he's really excited about it. And at that time, I don't even think he had 100,000 subscribers. But then the controversy, all of the free speech stuff, and
that was before
the viral moment happened. I was like, whoa. Yeah. And that's right when he published the Pepe video.
Yeah.
And so it was like, then that was like this cool segue, but confirmation with the, stuff I was learning about the ancient church too.
Awesome. I didn't know that story. That's a really cool. I didn't know you've been around since before the 2016 flare up, you could say.
The flare up. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's been multiple of those.
Speaking
of flare, the Firebird album, Jonathan, I'm really curious now that all of the songs are released, and interesting that, there we go. So interesting that Neil was like, hey, there's 3 more songs and we're not tagging them on at the end. They're the first 3 songs of the album.
Yeah, and, it's upside down, right? Like the cover has the flip.
Oh, yes.
Right? So the first song, the chorus, is encore, which is generally the last thing, right? And so we released the first 3 songs last because they kind of redefine the record. So I thought that'd be a fun little trick to play.
Which is a lot like, Jonathan, your video of commenting on postmodernism and how like the image is upside down. It's like how to turn postmodernism on its head or something like that.
Oh, that's true. I think I was influenced by that.
Yeah.
I didn't know it until now.
There you go.
Jonathan, it actually has like really that triangular shape and everything imprinted. It's like this poach's stamp in Neil's brain.
Yeah, and it's weird. It's wild that Firebird came out, what is it, like a year ago?
Well, but then the deluxe edition came out.
Yeah, and so then the Behemoth song, the new song, how do you say that in English? Behemoth.
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 You can say Behemoth or Behemoth.
It's amazing, and it's like an extra song. Why is an extra song? Usually those aren't great, but then it is great.
Neil's a generous guy. Man,
people they put out the deluxe version, and the extra song.
No, I was all upside down. My 3 favorites were the last 3. Not that they're all our children.
No.
They're all our children, Kate.
No, they're
not. And so
you told me a long time ago that my music was not my child.
No, it's fine. So anyway, we did that. Yeah, that was fun. Thank you, Jonathan. But I should give him a writing credit. We were talking earlier, just a minute ago, smoking cigars and pipes, if that doesn't scandalize anyone. We were talking about pretty much before I found Jonathan, I was doing symbolism, but just basically as a matter of intuition, in the sense that I have an idea, it would come to me, and then I'd push it around until things felt like they locked into place. And then that's when I knew it was right. But I wasn't even calling it symbolism at the time. It's just what felt like the story I wanted to tell. Yeah. But once I, tuned in his channel, it was such a revelation to me, because he was discussing the things that I liked in art, but explicitly. He was actually speaking about it more categorically. And so I think really your influence on me has helped my own critical process of relying on my intuition first, but then when things aren't right, the process of pushing the idea around has gotten much faster, because I'm able to more explicitly identify what I don't like about it myself through language that this guy and his brother have passed on. So I thought that was kind of fun. So yeah.
I like what Caleb says in the chat too. It's calling it the new 3 songs are the prelude to Firebird.
Exactly.
Now you get it. Now, whoever said that, you should give them.
Caleb. Awesome. So Jonathan, what if you were to give let me ask this. Okay, what would your symbolic breakdown of Firebird be? But before you answer, we're about a little bit over 15 minutes in, and I promised that we would do or get the giveaway off and started. So let me.
We're going to do 2 giveaways, one now and one in a little bit. Is that what we're doing?
We're doing 2. So I queued up Gareth. Gareth, how's this going to work? Why don't you break it down for the people? Oh, Gareth, your volume is not present.
Sorry.
Yeah,
we got it. All right. Yeah. If y'all want to win some cool merch and swag, go ahead and put enter into the chat, and we have an automated thing, so I don't win. But yeah, go ahead and do that now, and we'll.
Which one is this for? Is this for we giving away Dead Horse or Firebird first?
Well, we're talking about Firebird. Why don't we start with Firebird?
Sounds good. So here's the good news, guys, is that there's not signed copies of these, because with Kickstarter they ship straight to people. So this is one of the rare ways. I think you have a signed copy.
No,
actually.
I don't.
I didn't sign your copy.
No, we were going to have it signed, and then when I got home, I took it out.
Okay.
I'm like, no, we forgot to sign it.
So John hears from First
Look at
Things
that.
has
I
the
don't
only
even
signed
have.
copy.
I don't even have a signed copy.
You know where we live.
Oh, better type enter into the chat, Jonathan. No.
That's right. I can get my phone out and just enter into the chat.
That's good.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, type enter into the chat, and then
what I think about Firebird maybe is that I think that in every way, like at every level, I think this album represents where all of this has to go. Because one of the issues we were talking about this just before, which is that we've a lot of people with some of the things happening with people like JD Vance in power, who's seems to be a real Christian, who has interesting ideas connected to some of the people that I care about and that I think are important. There's a sense in which we can breathe now. Maybe we've had a little bit of winning in the culture situation, and now a lot of the people that have been bitching for 10 years or 8 years or whatever, now they don't know what to do. But the thing is that we know what to do. We know what
Symbolic World's got it. Thanks,
which
guys.
is make the beautiful things. And and the first song, Political, on Firebird, I think represents exactly the transition that needs to happen. It's this idea that the real future is not to reduce everything to political. Right. we have the vision to say, no, it has to be beyond that. We have to create beauty. We have to engage constructively in culture and stop just thinking that that the political sphere is where the battle has to happen.
It's funny because people, I all the time on YouTube, I think it's interesting, and I don't have a problem with it at all, actually. But people will like, oh, you're talking about this particular political group or this particular political group. It's like, no, actually, I'm talking about politics to kind of expose that it can only take you so far. Yeah. So your morality needs to be employed through ethics and politics at some point. It needs to be codified. But if you think everything is that, you're gonna miss life. Yeah. You're not gonna have a life. You're gonna otherize all these people, and you're not gonna be able to look across the table you're gonna try to make everyone line up with you. And this is what's happening politically too. The whole battle is about codifying their side into the thing. And so really a big part of, if we were going to call people to something, it's to be called above that, that level. Like, not that you can't participate in that level, but that's not the domain of life. That's the domain of the laws of civilization. And that is not where your life really happens. That's not where love happens anyway. That's the boundaries. That's where we think we keep things in bounds. So anyway, our message is like, again, I'm not affiliated with a political party or group like that. I'll talk to anyone in that capacity, but we're always trying to pull people up out of that grind, because we've got a cycle and a news cycle that just keeps asking people to come back into it. And like, you've been talking about kayfabe a lot lately, but like pro wrestling, here's your heel to hate, and here's your good guys. And then we end up with things like, I don't know, crazy versions of masculinity, femininity that are more of a reaction to the other side's position on it. And there's no life in that. So the sooner you can get your head out of it and away from that and up above the media and into something better, and into what it means to be human, what this life actually means, like, you're going to do a lot better than just trying to force other people to live life your way through politics.
Yeah. Yeah. I just want to give a quick shout out. It's really good to see some familiar, I would say faces, some familiar people in the chat. So we got Marvin, or Two Morvs. I know he's coming out with a really awesome record.
In like a day, right?
Yeah, like the timing is.
That's true. Yeah, it's coming
and
out
don't be
now.
shy. Post that link in the chat, Marvin. Okay. I see.
It'll be like
Andrew,
the Symbolic World, the Symbolic World Summit in music is like.
Yeah, because there's a Dirtpool Robbins clip in there too on that record. So
really?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's kind of like the what do they call it? That tissue that holds all of the different parts, the different muscles together, fascia.
Yeah.
And,
that's it. There you go.
He does. He kind of like ties
That's
it all
the word
together, and it's like, it has this melody to it. It's pretty awesome.
Cool.
But I'm also seeing 5Z in the chat. It's good to see him in there. I bet there was probably a few people that thought he was going to be wearing that mask.
That's true.
Yeah,
like
his channel. I mean, people should poke in and see 5G's. If you want to go on a acid trip that's safe for the whole family, maybe to some degree. 5Z's channel. Check it out. Just go in and watch.
Thanks, 5Z.
He's got some really funny stuff on there, some fun stuff. He did a really strange video. I just sent it to Russell Brand because it's about Russell Brand, Firebrand, and Firebird. It was like this weird mashup thing he did.
Gosh,
anyway, you have to see it. Go search it.
Speaking of mashups, man, brilliant. Yeah. I also see David Flores and some of the other Symbolic World artists.
We've
collaborated on a few projects too. He's excellent artist. If you haven't seen it, I think he's posted these pictures, but he's now shifting into drawing or making icons, and the recent one was on deer hide. So we did Elijah and a few of the other prophets, and it's actually like the hide of a deer. He turns it around, there's like the fur. It's
wow.
Yeah.
Garments of skin all the way.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah. So Jonathan, could you explain like some of the characters that are in the album? Let's do 30 seconds. So if you haven't, type in enter, and then in 30 seconds we're going to close it, and Gareth is going to make his calculations, do a random number generator, and pull the name from the hat. Okay, so T-minus 30 seconds. And with that, Jonathan, what's like the symbolism of Firebird or Behemoth, some of these characters that we see in the story?
Yeah, I mean, the Firebird is, it's an image of this beautiful thing that you try to catch, right? This insight that you try to catch, or the spark that you try to catch, but you end up with especially in the Firebird story, you always end up with like a sign of it, a feather or something that falls, and you try to get it, you know. And there are different versions in the different fairy tales. Sometimes the bird is locked up in a cage, you know, and you try to catch it. And so it is an image of this, of the insight, you know, or the spark. That's the way that I see it.
Awesome.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, there is we've kind of mashed the Phoenix and the Firebird, the Russian Firebird and the Phoenix together.
Yeah.
Right. So there is this notion when you get to the end of the record. Okay, so here's one of the things everyone has to deal with, and it's important to me in the sense of like I do have like this kind of fatherly thing where I want to pass out like fatherly advice sometimes, and it's just not very interesting if you just tell people. But so in the song Firebird, something that's really important to me, I think it's really important in our culture, is that everyone's made mistakes. Everyone's had bad things happen to them. Some of them were their fault. Some of them were totally not their fault. They were completely innocent in the situation, you know, like kids. And we're carrying around all these scars. Like, what are we going to do with them? Right. And so one of the things I realized, I tell my dad's story for this, just so people understand. It's a really easy, understandable example of this. My dad, when I grew up, he drank too much, drank all the time. He was a professional. He kept his job together. He was on the radio. I'm not outing him here. He'll go on the internet and say the exact same thing I'm saying. And when like there came a moment where it was like, you're going to lose your family if you don't stop. Right. And he stopped, and God bless him, he never went back. And he didn't just not go back. Is that thing that was his biggest defeat in life became his biggest victory, because he started to become known for the person who could help in that capacity. So I talk to so many people online, they seem to be so destitute and they're looking for hope, but what they don't understand is all these bad things, all this, like some serious trauma, all these things can be turned into not just okay, I'm better now, but actually your trophy, a victory that you came through it, because now the other people who didn't have someone there for him, you can help. So it's about redemption in a big way, but a redemption in the way not just like, hey, you're forgiven, you've moved on. Like, no, you can actually be part of setting the world right based upon the bad things you lived through. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm just saying the couple others saying are Firebird is resurrection. It's the Holy Spirit at Pentecost.
Yeah, it's interesting because if you think of it in those both ways, then you do have the Russian Firebird as this kind of this thing that you're hoping for or wanting, and then the Phoenix as this image of that not being able to be extinguished, like, and it coming back out of its own suffering, out of its own death.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the beauty of, like, when you're talking about the Russian Firebird too, like there's this sense where, you know, let's imagine, like, people want to experience God. Let's just say that, like, people would love to have an experience where they like were like, that was God and that was undeniable. But in a way that stays out of our reach sometimes, like, you know, and so I love that about the Firebird too, because I know Martin Shaw talks about this, like Christ appearing to him almost like as a figure, just kind of at the edge of the forest, you could barely make out. And we have these brushes in life where our hair stands up on the end of our arms and things like that. And so that aspect of, you know, it's like the Firebird, and then when it's apprehended in an inexhaustible way, it becomes the Phoenix in the story. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's good.
All right, who won? They want to know.
Yeah, let's check in, Gareth.
All right, let's do this.
Okay, we ready?
I hope you're ready, because it's coming. And the winner is
the drum roll.
Yeah, there's like a drum roll feature here.
Running this whole thing, guys. I gotta click this.
And the winner.
And
yeah, there we go.
Soda Pop.
Soda Pop.
Soda Pop.
Soda Pop.
There we go.
Soda Pop is the one that
Soda Pop.
is the one that had guessed that it was me in the mask.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, Soda Pop is on a hot streak.
Isn't that Jonathan Peugeot's favorite drink? No.
Yeah, of course.
He's a Dr. Pepper man.
Yeah, that's right.
Keep it away from.
Yeah.
It's the French. It's the pepper.
Dr. Pepper. How do you say pepper in French?
Because the English people in Montreal would call French-speaking people peppers.
Oh,
look at that.
All right. Hey, you know, why don't we just keep the party rolling? Gareth, let's get the next drawing going.
All right.
yeah, we'll just keep talking while you're working. I see you're working.
Working the magic.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations, Soda Pop.
Playing with the
Yeah.
virtual
Yeah, Soda Pop, thanks for being here. I hope you enjoy this amazing record. Signed special edition. Yeah. Oh, and you know what else snuck in this album is 4 songs from Queen of the Night.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Well, this is, by the way, guys, this is a limited edition. I didn't say that when I was doing I think I may have said that when I was doing the Kickstarter, but this is almost out of print, and the next version will be the deluxe edition. So anybody who has this will be like, I don't know if we'll ever put Queen of the Night on vinyl. Maybe we will. But this is a one of a kind. There's only going to be, I think, 700 of these in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
if that adds value to you, I just figured I'd let you know.
Yeah, that's the thing.
So
They
you
are going
guys,
to be for sale very soon.
next one up is Dead Horse. So if you haven't already, type in enter right now. So for the next 2 minutes, type in enter, and it adds your name to the hat, and Gareth will pull that, in about 5 minutes or so.
Good.
All right, Jonathan. Next question is Behemoth. What's the symbolism of Behemoth?
I mean, Behemoth is an image of the world, like earthly tyranny, you could say. It's the image of the system. It's a one version of the beast in Revelation. You could understand it as Behemoth as well, because it is the beast of the earth. And so it can represent civilization and how it goes awry. All the excesses of our world, the running around, the kind of the way it captures us. You could use it to represent things like consumer society or capitalism, how it eats us in that sense. So yeah, that's my sense of Behemoth. But I want to know what you think Behemoth is, Neil.
Oh, well, I can do better than that.
You wrote the song.
I'm kidding.
How did you connect it in the song?
Well, so you nailed what I did in the song, obviously. Like, that's exactly what I was thinking of it. So, like, you could see that, okay, there's 2 real, like, shorthand ways I look at Leviathan versus Behemoth. Now, there's also Ziz, which is like I'm kind of using that with a bird in the story, bird, obviously, so I'm not calling it Ziz. But let's just say Leviathan versus Behemoth is the irresistible force versus the immovable object, in the sense of, you could think of land, the animal spirit of the land and its desire to say to the water, we go no further, like bring order. And then in the ocean, like that desire to constantly come for and erode the land. So I've always seen them as that way, and so I think there's maybe even a positive way to look at these things symbolically. But in the story, I decided to think about this version of the world that is options are being cut off, right? And then options are being cut off in a very strange way. So one of the things I try to talk about in the song is, like, the second verse really gets into it. It's like, so many stations, no songs that I know. Kate wrote that line. I really liked it. Losing my patience from the drone of the road. No great vacations, no comfortable homes. In a drive-through world, you're going to get it to go. So as this thing's being established, it's like the establishment is a false establishment because you're not being more established. You're actually more unmoored, right? In this situation, you don't have a place to call home. You don't have a community the way you did, because a lot of these situations and decisions that were being left to the individual are now, through bureaucracy in the story anyway, and through bureaucracy in politics and technology, just being locked into place. So the variations in the world are changing, and people are being forced into these roles. And so that's kind of how I dealt with it in the story. But I do really think of, like, Behemoth as the false spirit of civilization. It is a way, like, again, like, there's another way to look at it. Like, nature is the work of the angels. Like, nature happens on its own. Man doesn't have to maintain it, but civilization is man's thing. That's our explicit work. And so when that goes wrong, you have Behemoth. You have a monster. Does that make sense? Am I close to something good?
Yeah.
Derek, have you heard Leviathan off of our last days of Leviathan?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so that would be fun for everybody watching to go back and check out that song. because they're kind of bookend songs, Behemoth and Leviathan.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and that's a
Oh,
callback
dropped
to
the
a
Easter
much
eggs.
earlier record.
Yeah, but we were talking about this too. We also like so in the Bible, they're not using abstract categories like order and chaos. They're embedding it in Leviathan and Behemoth and things like that happen. So what I love about that, I think that's a higher order of understanding than the abstract category itself. Not that the abstract category doesn't have some kind of use that you can apply and map over other things, but the story is how we encounter the world. So we don't necessarily encounter abstract categories in that capacity. So it's much easier to understand tyranny through a story of a monster that's behaving a certain way than it is abstractly. Because now when you see it, you're like, oh, that's like this thing. That's like this thing over here. So I prefer, and especially if you're trying to make any kind of poetic sense out of what you're saying, you're not going to use the cold language of abstraction. You're going to embed it in an example that you'll feel a certain way about. So that's why I've always preferred that type of talk. Like, just metaphysics as like abstract categories has no appeal to me. But when you embed it in a story, now I'm all about it.
Yeah. And I think, Waffle Syrup here, I think he's trying to trigger Jonathan with this comment. He said literally in one sentence in one comment. He said it twice.
Considering the people literally pulled Behemoth.
Thanks for that, Waffles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's also Waffles might be, or she. I don't even know Waffle. The name Waffle. I don't know if that's
Waffle syrup. No, we can't
guess at that. So part of the story is like the breakdown of the world has happened, that people live on a movable city. It's like this. It's this reclaimed giant drill.
So Samuel says,
being pulled
since
around.
the deluxe edition just came out, should we expect a moving city within the year? It would follow the Dead Horse pattern.
You're already living in a moving city, right? Your neighbors. When we interact online, it's a weird breakdown of the neighborhood. So this is one of the problems in the interactions of online, is that there's no gap or space between us anymore. We're right next to each other. So this is why everybody responds to everybody online as if their neighbor is doing the crazy thing they're talking about. And it creates this kind of false, you don't know where you live when you enter that space. And so that's kind of like living in a moving city, if you will, because you could be next to anyone in a moment's notice and not realize it, right? And you'll react to them as if you're in proximity to them. So here's a weird way to talk about this metaphysically. So why do people yell at each other? Why do lovers speak sweetly and quietly to each other? Because we're attending to the metaphysics of it, like the unseen spirit in the room. So people, when they begin to argue, they get louder because what they're reacting to is the fact that person is farther away. Because when people get farther away, we shout. When lovers are close, they lower their voice. And they speak softly to each other, because that's what you don't have to speak loudly to someone who's right next to you. So when you experience closeness, you will speak like you're closer to that person. When you experience distance, you will use the volume of distance. So this was one of the other things I wanted to bring up. I didn't know if I had a point in that, but I figured someone could do something with that in their own storytelling. I know there's a lot of storytellers out there.
Gareth is rejoining us here.
Yeah.
You ready for the second drawing, Gareth?
I have massaged the virtual magical lamp.
Is the raffle still open?
It is not. It is closed. I've already run the little daemon or whatever. So the winner is
little daemon. That's probably what it is.
Is the Cave of the Heart.
Congratulations!
Now I want to watch
the Heart.
Star Trek Enterprise.
Okay, so the Cave of the Heart. Go to that channel. Like, I posted this the other day. Made a wonderful edit from what is that film called? You can put it in the chat. 5 centimeters. What the heck is the name?
Oh, is that who posted that? I saw that. That was really good.
Yeah, right. Am I right, Cave? Right. I think that was you. Go check it out. I was so delighted with their edit. Is a fan edit to the film and our song for the song The Blur. 5 centimeters per second. Yeah. Oh, that was such a great edit. Well done.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
My mom thought you made it in 2 weeks. She didn't know that it was from another movie. I showed it to her. She's like, "This person's amazing." I was like, "No, they didn't make that in 2 weeks."
They must really like your music.
That's a film, Mom.
Yeah.
already.
Mom. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations, Cave of the Heart. Wow.
Such a good boy.
If someone deserved it, Cave did for that. So thank you. I'm glad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So also make videos on your songs. That's what it says.
Yeah, this is if you. So guys, you understand how to win a raffle. All you have to do is make a video for our song.
Yeah. It's the algorithm. It earns favor from the algorithm somehow.
Yeah. So Derek, I'm going to go into
Matthew principle at work.
What's next on your channel? What are you going to be up to coming up? Got any plans, or you?
Oh yeah, no, it's good timing, good question. Yeah, so I am really laying out the priorities. I took a few months off and I started kicking myself. I'm like, man, I should be posting. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. But it's almost like in the death of this, I kind of go into this more detail in my newsletter, recent Substack, but it was like I could see the forest from the trees. And so, and through that, I realized, man, I got to go for glory. I got to go for these big projects that I feel like God's given me. And a lot of that is inspired by you guys too, because, you know, like there's an important place for the analytical, symbolic breakdown and trying to help people see other people's things. But it's very like, it's kind of codependent on other people coming out with stuff. You know, I know Jonathan Pajot's talked about this with his fairy tale series. And I'm just looking, and I'm like, there's several, like I got a post-apocalyptic zombie story called The Zombie Mother. I have some other sci-fi stories. I even have a interesting, like, Enter the Virtual World music concept record that I wrote at 19 that I just need to finish. And
what? You've told me about this a little bit, but I need to know more one day.
I told you there'd be surprises on the stream, Neil. I told you. Yeah. So I have these cool things, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, no one else is doing it, so I guess I just got to do it. And so I kind of heeded the calling, you know. And then I also have, I really feel like I need to wrap up what I'm doing with Arrival and Exodus. And I am in the final revisions for that book. And that's the one that's going to be handcrafted by Colin Miller. Shout out to him, Sylvan Bookworks. And then after that, I'm going to do my memoir from that bike journey through Mexico that had some crazy spiritual experiences that the more I started reflecting on it, I realized that it was literally a hero's journey, like in every layer. So not just narratively, but also like if you look at the map geographically, it completes like the hero's journey loop, you know, start at home, go down south to the underworld, right? And then make my way back up. And so those are the things I'm focusing on. So that's what I prioritize, get up early, work on that before work. And then after work, I'm going to continue to post podcasts, and I'm going to post a thoughtful letter on Substack, and come out with, you know, some simple YouTube videos. Try to do one of those things each week and maintain that schedule. So that way, you know, because I don't know if, let me ask you guys. So like if you are in creative mode, say like Jonathan, you know, like you're writing one of your fairy tale books, or you're doing one of your creative projects, or Neil, one of your albums, and you start spending more time on the marketing, the podcasting, spending so much time on that. Like, do you feel like there's like almost like a competition for your creative work in addition to this, you know, extra work that you do, you know, in the conversation space and places like that?
I definitely feel that. I definitely feel there's competition between those for like mental space. I'm not like Neil is. I'm not as natural when I'm creating stuff. Like I need to be in a vacuum, and I need to have kind of time and buffer to be able to do that stuff. And so I do sometimes feel like when I get caught up in the running of Symbolic World or Symbolic World Press and a lot of the technical stuff, answering emails and, you know, planning trips and doing all that stuff, I definitely feel like the energy to be able to actually write creative things gets kind of sucked out of me, sadly.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel that for myself personally too. But what happens for me is, so I do actually have a background in marketing, and I could tell myself, I could sit down and tell myself everything I need to do, exactly what I would need to do to promote and market things properly. But I hit a point where, you know, like really after every record, I'm kind of burnt. because not because of the record part of it. It's because I have to get out and like you have to kind of promote yourself, and it's like that's so uncomfortable. Because in marketing, your job is sort of to force people's attention towards you as much as you can, and then distort their assessment of the thing so that they want to buy it. And so I'm not comfortable with that, so I can't take those type of strategies. So it's something happens to me where I can do very little of what I'm supposed to do on the business marketing end before I don't want to do anything anymore. So I have to like push that as far as I can and then just shut down for 3 days and start over and just be content with the fact that I've actually handed the job of marketing and promoting over to the people that like the music. So it's kind of on them. If they want more records, they have to share it and they have to do it. So if they don't want more records, it's fine. Like we, you know,
Dude,
I won't
Neil,
be able
you
to
have
do marketing.
Neil and Kate, you guys have the best fans. I got to say, your especially your Discord, like they have some of the coolest threads, especially the lore. I think the lore thread is my favorite.
Oh yeah, I don't know.
They're so encouraging too.
Yeah, they're like really. I think our YouTube channel partially because we don't market to people that don't want it. We kind of let people share it with each other. We have so much positivity, so it's because we're not forcing our stuff in people's faces who don't want to hear it. So I don't know. Like I try to read every comment on YouTube, and I'm just when I'm done with that, it's like a little dopamine rush of niceness and encouragement from people.
He reads them too every now and then, but I kind of stay away from all that.
Yeah, it goes right to her head. She just gets too excited.
Well, hey guys, if you're up to it, feel like answering a few questions from the chat.
Yeah, I got a couple minutes here for you, bro. Let's do it.
All right.
Reward everybody. They have a question.
Yeah, Gareth, if you could highlight a few questions that have been posted in the chat.
Sure.
Now's your time, guys. Ask
I saw a few good
Jonathan,
ones
Neil,
back
Kate.
there. I'm trying to find.
Okay, Waffles. We see Waffles. Get it up there. Neil, is your keyboard working?
What? I mean, like, okay. Oh, okay, Waffles. All right. So my piano got too bad to tune. If you're referring to that, like I finally found a good piano tuner. So so I've been using like samples I've made of pianos over the years on the stuff, but now I'm finally my Kawai's back up. Are you referring to that? Like, how do you know this? Have we talked about this?
That can't be.
Are you one of these people that I talk to and has a totally different name on YouTube? Because I have not told many people about my keyboard. If you met my typing keyboard, because I have so many typos in all my stuff, that's my brain. That's not my keyboard's problem. I can't see typos.
It says, is your keyboard working? And then down here, if so, what year does Firebird take place? Oh, just meaning, can you type the answer? Probably.
Oh.
What year does Firebird take place?
Okay, well, it's between the
That
year
was a fantastic answer, by the way, Neil.
Yeah, it's between the year 2077
Not
and
what
the
he
year
was looking for.
3077.
Yeah.
There you
Cool.
somewhere in the 1,000-year period. It's closer to 3,000.
Yeah. And can you see 5Z's question there?
What happened when the
Is it
symbolic thinking is enforced by nefarious people with power to manipulate the re-enchanted? I mean, that's what they do.
Yeah.
That's called history.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that one of the things we've seen.
Let him rip on this.
One of the things we've seen in the past few decades is exactly that. And so, for example, if you notice, let's say a lot of the more progressive part of culture, they actually have understood symbolism very well and have wielded it very powerfully. And so, but it's not enough. Like, we need a balanced story. You can't just have one like line of symbolism. And when that happens, what happens at some point, you go overboard, you exaggerate it, and then finally it becomes completely ridiculous and contradictory. And that's why now Hollywood's falling apart. That's why, the storytelling, let's say, enterprise in our society is kind of falling apart. But for a while they were driving because they kind of understood feminine symbolism quite well, and they understood the symbolism of the margin quite well, and they understood the symbolism of the exception, of the stranger, all of these aspects of symbolism. They understood it very beautifully. But it's when they try to get it to eat it all, to take it all, to basically like try to make that symbolism into everything, then it starts to crumble and starts to fall apart. And so, I think the challenge for us now is to be able to reintegrate into a more powerful story where you have both the center and the fringe. You can talk about the two masculine and feminine symbolism in, together. And so that's the challenge we have now, I think.
Yeah. And so it's funny because we were talking about this too. Like, there's a difference between liberal and conservative in the political world and liberal and conservative in a temperamental world, meaning like your innate temperament. So the innate temperament of liberalism is going to be the side that sees symbolism, right? And the traditional side is the side that upholds it, in the sense that, like, if you think about two aspects of the world, that which renews and, expands, and that which upholds tradition. So my problem has been, like, someone who's temperamentally liberal, is that I can't find anything. That we've gotten so divided, it's so detached in these two departments, that what progress should look like doesn't look like progress anymore. So I've always been in this spot where I've had trouble actually finding some kind of political lineup with my own liberal temperament. And again, I don't want people to get confused about that words. I'm a family man, like I'm a traditional person, except that, and Jonathan's like this too. Like, you live a very traditional life, but you see, and you can expand your vision. And so one of the things that Jonathan's done is he's reclaimed a lot of stuff that's been lost in through secular materialism over the years. The fact that there is actually a connection between the spirited world and the material world. And by that, I mean, that's exactly how you and I exist. We exist as both things that are connected and united. When those two things come apart, it's death. So in our culture, I've been always kind of wanting for a push of renewal, and a push of new, and a push of progress that actually respects what's come before it and adds to what's come before it, as opposed to being at odds with that other group and seeing tradition in the past as something that we need to erase and destroy. There's no progress if you don't have anywhere to stand on that where you came from. There's no progress. So this has always been something that's been kind of bothering me. So I always hope for a world where progressivism looks like something that actually understands that families are what make the world go around.
Yeah, that's good. So we have our dear friend and editor of the Symbolic World blog, Mr. Cormac Jones. He has a quick question here. Jonathan, is Jonathan going to see the new Snow White?
So even better than I'm going to see it is that we are going to see it. We're going to all go see it together. We're going to have a blast.
Did you talk him into it?
Oh, it's
No, you don't understand.
Great.
Jonathan's like, hey, I'm coming to Florida to stay with you. I'm bringing my son. I'm going to tell you something that you're going to hate, though. I'm obligated to see the new Snow White, is what he said. And that...
As of just a few hours ago, you had told me you were not going.
Well, I was...
Oh, come on!
I was hoping... Like, at that moment...
hate watch together.
At that moment, he told me that, I was like, you know what? I won't be so sad if Jonathan has to cancel this trip for some unforeseen reason.
We have to do it. So the reason why I have to watch it is because there's a journalist from the Daily Express in England who has asked me to watch it, and then he's going to interview me about it for an article. So basically, talk about it for that article. But I probably would have gone to see it anyways, just because, in some ways, the announcement that Disney was going to make the Snow White movie was like the final tip that I needed to really decide to do this fairy tale series. Because I knew they couldn't. Even before we knew anything about the movie, I was like, I knew they could not make this movie. Like, there's no way.
You
like,
triggered.
They couldn't have the prince. They couldn't have him kiss her. They couldn't have the dwarves. Like, there's almost nothing. Like, what's left? What are they going to make a movie about? So when it all ended up being exactly that, I was just like, yeah, of course we knew that they couldn't do it. So
you know what's crazy though? I told Jonathan this. Like, I didn't realize how much this is already hated for whatever reason. I don't want to get into that. But I went to look ahead because I'm like, oh, it's opening weekend. If he wants to get tickets, I better get tickets now. No, I didn't need to get tickets now. Every showtime, the theater was empty except for 2. There were 2 seats sold, down the road all day on like the opening weekend. I could not believe this is going to be one of the most catastrophic releases from a film company ever. Yeah. So Baze asked a question too. Well, I wanted to know the answer to. He just asked it. By the way, Baze, how you doing? Any update from the fairy tale anthology series?
From Symbolic World Press. And so yes, we are. I mean, we're actually working on 3 fairy tales simultaneously. And so the next fairy tale that's coming out is going to be Rapunzel, And funnily enough, like this was not planned, but we found out that Disney is going to announce their live action Rapunzel
Oh my
at the end of the fall.
So I haven't told Jonathan my secret plan, but my plan is for the two of us to infiltrate Disney.
Yeah, here you go. So
and start to restore the fairy tale.
Yeah.
So here's the thing that nobody knows is that we're working on Rapunzel and the Valiant Little Tailor, which is part of the anthology. But we've also decided to do an extra one, which will come out this year, which is going to be Little Red Riding Hood. And it's going to come out for Halloween, and it's going to have a black cover. And it's going to be a little edgy, but it'll still be for kids, but it will be a little edgy because we need to talk about Little Red Riding Hood right now.
Man,
Oh, we
I can
need
just
to.
like hear the
He
music
said that like you're supposed to
as
know what that
performed by
meant.
Neil
have
as like
to-
this
we have to
detuned
talk-
piano.
We have to talk about the wolf dressing up as the grandmother. It's very important.
Oh, interesting. Interesting.
But I am the sheep who dresses up as a wolf.
That's right, exactly.
Roger has a good question. When is Summit 2.0?
Oof, man,
I
you
get
guys-
asked this like every
You're
week.
dropping all the big questions. So
I know, man.
this is not a guarantee, folks. This is not a guarantee, but the plan for now is that Summit 2.0 will be in 2026, probably similar timing in next year. So that's the plan. Although nothing is set in stone yet, but that's at least the plan. We are going to do another one for sure. We decided after we got over the pain of everything that happened, last year. Now we're
The
like,
recovery.
yeah, we've forgotten about it. We already.
It's so much work because I worked with a company that puts these on, the one that put on the Symbolic World Summit, and every organization that decides to do a conference has to keep doing their normal job and plan a conference at the same time.
Yeah.
So as much as an opportunity is, and much as a payoff for the people who've been a part of it, and we all get together and see each other, it's twice the work. It's twice the work. So that's I'm impressed that you're even going to do one this soon. That's great.
Yeah, but I think it's also it's testimonies like the one that you gave at the beginning, Derek, and it's hearing a lot of people's story about how for a lot of people that was a transformative event. That it wasn't just like let's go and do this, but really the connections they made, the friendships they made, and also just to take the moment to be together in person and to meet the people that we've been talking to online for all these years was very powerful, and it was very powerful for me as well. And so I think that's what really showed us that we have to do it again.
Have to do it again.
Yeah.
Dougie asked the correct question here.
What did Melky ask?
Neil, Kate wants to know when you're making the horror movie Slaytona.
Slaytona Beach? Yeah. Man, I'll have to tell Jonathan about that. See what he thinks.
Is that the werewolf?
Well,
Oh, what?
I'm just kidding.
Thanks,
It's fine.
Jonathan.
That's not
Is that like the big reveal? Is that it's
No,
a
it's
werewolf?
not.
You're gonna hide that
Guess
from
we're
everyone?
not making that one.
Every monster ever seen in a movie is in that series.
Okay.
No, I think we are going to make a film with our next record, though.
Woohoo!
I'm going to try. It's an expensive one, though. So Queen of the Night costs $60,000, and we're talking into like I need to raise like 8 digits for this one. So it's going to be much bigger. But I know the director and I'm working on it. So I think everybody's going to like it.
Going for glory.
So I love it.
Kate just wants me to put her in movies. I can't make her the scary, beautiful woman and everything, though.
Can I always
She's
be
already
the
that.
villain?
She's already that in real
I
life.
want to always be the villain. Actually, I don't have to be in it though. I just love working on movies. It's so fun.
What I'm saying is that
Every
movie was a
single
cry for
element.
help because Kate is terrifying. She's
Mhm.
terrifying.
Hey, there's a question for Kate from Highland. How many harmonies are you tracking in these huge choruses / hooks? There's so much going on, both. When you're composing, do you write music for the lyrics or do you write lyrics for the music? Ooh.
Well, first of all,
Both.
a lot of the vocal parts you're hearing are actually Neil. So he can mimic and blend with my voice so well that he can actually lay down a lot of those tracks without me. But then he'll pull me in for the soprano stuff.
Well, so there are songs though. Like let's give them an example. We use Johann Sebastian Bach's "Come Jesu"
Yep.
in Queen of the Night. That's a choral arrangement. Now I did it in a different key than Bach did, but I'm actually using a lot of his parts in that. And so the problem is that was 32 voices.
Right.
Kate does all the female voices in that. And I don't even want to make you do an impression of it, but what happens is if you sing with the same voice on top of itself, it starts to get metallic and weird because it's the same property. So you have to learn to alter your voice. Like this voice is going to be more breathy. This voice is going to be more operatic. So if you solo out some of those tracks, she is like some crazy Helga Viking lady on some of these.
I'm always sure
with massive vibrato, and other ones she sounds like a pop star.
I'm always sure that he's recording it to like punk me later.
Yeah.
Because he's like, okay, now sound like, you know, a 400-pound whatever, like green woman or whatever.
Green.
You know, but like just very
that was
strange.
her attempt to not be offensive.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I don't even know what to say that's not going to get me canceled. Yeah. But yeah, it's like he makes me play all these strange characters so that I can get different.
Yeah, so then when it's done, it sounds like a. And so also you have to vary the distance from the microphone if you're going to simulate a choir, for example. So some voices are technically closer to you in the room when you're listening to a choir. Some are farther or closer to the microphone. So that sound of the voice over here has to be in there as well as the voice that's closer to the microphone. So those are things to think about as you do it over time.
We got a quick one right here. So Soda Pop, winner of the Firebird album, says, me winning that Firebird album got me back to illustrating my great vacation video.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's pretty cool.
I'd love to see that. Send it to me.
Yeah. And then we got another one from, Astercius. Did Jonathan actually come over, or does he live in your attic?
Aster's awesome. Yeah, no. How do you know I'm not in his attic?
I know.
You're right.
They knew I was like, I'm like your daddy now.
Yeah.
You're my little
Spider
boy.
in the attic.
This is actually my first time at their house, and I'm really very, very grateful and happy to be here. It's really cool to.
Did our house look like a house that we would live in when you came in? Did it look like
100? Yeah, there's no doubt. It looks like Dirt Robin's house.
You're getting one of the worst views of it right now,
it's a little boring right now.
Yeah, the white wall. It's like you found the one white wall, you know?
Well, yeah, they're the blinds.
It's actually mostly white walls because we have that kind of Mexican.
Our stuff is so busy.
Yeah.
Our stuff is so busy and colorful that if you get too colorful walls, it just becomes overload.
Yep.
Yeah. Another one is any update to the Christianities movie?
Oh yeah, Caleb. It's in early pre-production and some productions happen. It's fundraising. I think pretty much we have marketing and distribution lined up. Most of the fundraising lined up. If someone is a large money donor for this film, you want to get in now. So that's all I have to say because it's going to get funded easy. And so anyway, that's going on. That's the boring part of making films. I can't tell you much more about it except for all the things we want to film in the world. We keep getting permission. And so we're going to have access to things that nobody's ever seen on the big screen that actually exist in the world. And I don't want to tell you much more than that, but you're gonna be incredulous about some of it because you're not gonna believe it exists.
I'm a little jealous.
Yeah. Well, our good friend from Carolina, Matthew Wilkinson, he's presente, and he asks, if everything is mind, then wouldn't AI already have consciousness? Oh man, dropping.
No, we're not
Matthew.
Idealist over here. Everything is not mind. What about you? You think everything's mind?
I mean, I would say that one of the reasons why I'm willing to engage in that, especially like with Kastrup and people like him, is that they say that, but then what they end up doing in their system is they, nonetheless, within mind, will separate something like heaven and earth within mind. And so it ends up being a lot of word games in the end because they end up reproducing the same structure. And so, you know, you could say that AI is not a mind. AI is not a mind anyways. Like AI is an extension of human mind. It's cheating
off our test.
Yeah, it's basically like you could say it's applying the concept of the garments of skin to information and to trying to apply to the mind, but it doesn't have logos. It doesn't have purpose. AI doesn't have purpose. The only purposes it has is the ones we give it, but it doesn't have it intrinsically. It can't because it doesn't care. It doesn't have things that it moves towards naturally. At least not in the way that it, like in the LLMs, they don't care. Like we have actual purposes, and so we give them to the AI, and then the AI, you know, is able to aggregate information. and synthesize it, but it doesn't have mind. I don't think so.
I would totally agree. Anthropology doesn't
Yeah.
follow how we even know things categorically through experience and through analogy. But Matthew's take, by the way, on Mr. Rogers is amazing. Remember
What?
that?
What was
Matthew, we
this?
sat around in South Carolina and talked about Mr. Rogers. But isn't consciousness weird?
Why are you?
I know.
Like the worst.
I know. So consciousness is a weird thing because you can't. It's like one of those things you can't see when you look at it, right? And it's like almost like it's better understood implicitly. Like a lot of the conversations around consciousness, I don't think serve my experience as a conscious being. I don't know if that I just got really esoteric. I'm sorry. Hey, Marvin, to Neil and Jonathan, how do you approach storytelling for Neil and the album lore, especially over multiple albums, and for Jonathan and the fairy tales, and also in icons? You and I have a similar thing we did here. You talked about this at the summit, and Marvin, you're obviously aware of this because I think you've heard everything from that because you're making a record to it. You weirdo, I love it. So I love that he's doing this.
Yeah, great.
We had talked about like there are problems in the world. There are problems that you deal with. There are problems that society is dealing with, and for me, when I just dwell on these things, I don't answer them with some sort of political answer. A story will come to me. That's all I know. That's how it happens. Like the answer comes in the form of a story or an impression, and then that leads to a project. That's how, like with Dead Horse or Queen of the Night or even Firebird. I mean, we can get into a little of that some other time because we don't have time. But so what an artist is trying to do is they're trying to follow a sequence, a pattern, and then project it into the future sometimes, right? So when you look at a problem or a trend that you don't like, you can project it. Just imagine if more people did that. You can even do this with yourself. Like you can go out and decide like, I'm an extrovert by force. Naturally, as a kid, I avoided talking to people and strangers. Didn't like it, was uncomfortable. I couldn't even like call, like to ask, a question on the phone to someone. I would panic. And I realized one day I was like, do I want that to be me? Because every time I give into that impulse, I become more like the thing I don't want to be. I want to be the person who likes people and talks to people and goes after them. So, you intentionally do that. And so I think that's part of the thing with stories is that for me, when you see things heading away into a place that's less hospitable, it's like the world's becoming pitiless often. And it's like the story that rescues that, the hero's journey that rescues that. That's how the answer comes to me. So it doesn't come to me as like, hey, a political solution. Here's a law we need to pass. It never comes to me like that. So I don't know. But you said something similar to this idea. I may have not said it in your words, but
yeah, I mean, I don't think. How can I say this? Like, I don't think that my storytelling is as exploratory as yours. Definitely, I think that I have a more. My stories, they tend to want to. The way that I do it, it's interesting. Is the way that I do it is that I try to see how these old stories how they connect to the modern world, and then that gives me insight both into the story, then also into the issues that we're dealing with. And so the fairy tales, obviously, I'm taking these fairy tales and kind of retelling them. God's Dog is more exploratory, but man, God's Dog is really just like everything in God's Dog is like pulled from all these Christian traditions. The garments of skin is in the book of Jasher, where it actually says that the garments of skin are passed down in the same way that I show in the story, from these characters all the way down to these different characters. And so it's like the idea of St. Christopher as a dog and a man and St. George and St. Simeon the Stylite, that's kind of how I think. And so if I'm going to tell like another story in the future, it'll be like I'll take an Arthurian romance and try to kind of understand it in a way that I can apply it. Or, one of the things I'm working on is an origin story for Santa Claus, where I'm going to fuse the story of the modern Santa Claus with St. Nicholas completely, like just completely interrelate them.
Interesting.
And so those are the kinds of things that I care about.
Yeah, but we do have sort of the same prompt in the sense.
Yeah,
that
I think so.
It's like there's a problem.
Yeah.
Right, and you look at the story and you see like, oh my gosh, this story actually possesses in some degree the cure.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Neil will have to tell you his Santa story.
Okay.
Idea.
Oh no.
He had a Sam movie idea.
So, but other thing is too, like I have this weird thing. I don't try to talk about it much because it is weird. Is that when I have the final idea, I find that there's a way I can get. This sounds so. I don't know, fruity or floaty or woo-woo, but it's like I try to engage my whole self in the idea in the end, because imagine this, like when you're reaching for something that's just out of reach. Imagine a movie where they're reaching for something and it's just out of reach, and you're like, well, couldn't they already reach it? Then suddenly somehow they muster that extra little, few inches to grab the cliff ledge with the girl's hand and save her or whatever. There's a process I go through, and it's like very privately, where it's almost punishing to do it, but I try to engage every part of me that lies to myself, and I try to clear it out, and I try to figure out how I reach for that thing that I couldn't reach without my whole self engaged. It's kind of painful. I'm kind of getting tired of doing it, but because it's hard. You have to there's a weird way where when I want to find something, sometimes I have to break my own heart. Like you have to look at the thing in the world you've been ignoring, deal with the pain of it, and then the extra idea comes, the better word for the situation comes, the better melody. So that's probably not helpful to anyone.
Yeah. How about you, Kate?
That is helpful.
It is?
Yeah.
No.
I think you're a better person for that process, for sure.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I like when you describe when you're like writing a character though too, that you kind of like sit them in a chair and kind of just start to interview them.
Yeah. No, it's so weird. They'll say things you didn't think of. I don't know how that happens. Like they will. Like it's weird. I don't know if that's that way for everybody, but you get stuck. You can interview your own character like in your head.
Oh, interesting.
It's a weird ideation, imagination, but they'll sometimes they'll give a weird answer to a question. Like I knew it intuitively, but I couldn't find it intentionally. Well, like that. I mean, I'm not much into brain science, but there is something that's well mapped, is the idea that where the area of our brain where we do conscious computations is super slow. It's like our slowest, like when you try to do math consciously. Now, your body is implicitly doing incredible math just to keep you on your feet. The calculations that are being done in your body to make it operate and be able to move through a room without falling over is astronomically faster than your conscious part of your brain. So I think there is a way, like, I don't know, unconscious, like this might be the wrong word to say it, but there is like a way that you can hand things over to your own experience and into other aspects of you that understand how things connect way faster than if you actually try to think of an idea. Also probably not helpful, but that's what I do. I don't know how else to say it.
Dude, there's a bunch of questions about an ARG, an alternate reality game. Do you have any inspiration to come out with one?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's just a matter of the doing of it. You know what I mean? So the problem is that, I don't know, Jonathan, you like this, you have more ideas than you can do. And then it's
for sure.
Yeah. So I have a process to the idea.
Not as much as you though.
No,
there's no way.
It's a problem. So I send my ideas in the crucible. I never act on them right away. I let them sit. And I tell my friends, like Derek, I've told you a bunch of things I'll never do, right? Like when we've talked on the phone, I'm like, hey, I'm thinking about this idea. And so what I do is I test these ideas out of my friends that have a good creative eye and I like their taste, or I'll just start talking about it. And the ones that people bring up to me later are the ones I start to take seriously, or they ask more questions about, or I don't write much down ever, like even song lyrics and stuff or song ideas. I just bounce around my head because I believe, like, for now, my memory's pretty good. And if I think the idea is not great, it will slip away on me. But if the idea is good, it'll stay. So I have so many things I'm kicking around all the time. And I do have a process for kind of like, I guess, having an audience decide for me which idea is better or not. It just doesn't look like, I give it to an actual audience. My audience is my friends and myself as far as what sticks with me and what can I not get out of my head. And that's the idea I end up going with.
Yeah. Just wanted to give a shout out to Upcycle and a few others that sent in some donations. Very generous of you.
That's really nice.
And then I thought this was cool too. So Franziska said, wanted to say thank y'all for getting me back into writing stories. Hey, awesome.
That's
write
a
a little
huge
bit every day. Yeah.
That's what I like to hear. Thank you.
Yeah. Hey guys, I just wanted to check in for time. I know it's getting late.
Yeah, we probably get
pretty amazing. We have more people now than when we started. So
well, we unmasked the spider.
Yeah. The
That's
monster.
what did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That guy can draw a crowd.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I
Yeah.
love it.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, you guys. This has been great. Thank you for all the
Anytime.
support and the friendship.
And Gareth hiding behind the scenes. It was
Oh.
nice to see you.
You-
Oh, there he comes. You brought him back.
Yeah.
If he could
There
fix,
it
like,
is.
shirts or something right now, or putting on makeup, that would have been fun.
Yeah.
That would've been very fun.
Just putting on lipstick while he's crying.
You know,
Yeah.
get
No.
ready for Snow White.
No, Gareth, you're brilliant, man. Good seeing you.
Yep, good seeing you guys.
All right,
Derek?
thanks for everybody coming by. Derek, I'll turn it back over to you. And
Thanks everyone.
Appreciate
It was
you
great.
doing this.
Thank you
Great to
guys
see
so
you.
much.
did you guys figure out how you're getting everyone's addresses to ship this stuff?
Man, that is a fantastic question. Yeah.
They're going to
So,
have to talk to you on another platform.
I did record the winners though, so
Okay. It was Soda
Yeah.
Pop and
Something.
Cave of the Heart.
mhm.
So, are they? If they're both, well, I have access to both of them. Cave won the Dead Horse, so you'll need that address. But Soda Pop, you can message me on any platform, and I'll get your address and send you that out.
Okay, awesome.
We good? Okay. But Cave, you got to follow up with Derek. He's got yours.
I'll have to ask the secret question
Okay.
from the identity.
Yeah. No, I know who that is. All right.
Yep.
Okay, we're good.
Awesome. Cormac. Yeah, thanks, Cormac, Andrew, lots of friends on the stream and the chat too. Love you guys. Thank you very much. All right, Jonathan, the DeGraides, thank you so much. Take care.
All right.
Bye.
See you.
Yeah. All right, Gareth, let's ride this off into the sunset here.
let's do it, man. It's been
Okay.
quite a ride.
Yeah.
Quite a ride with your channel and the arrival stuff and all. I mean, a lot of cool things you've been doing.
Yeah.
So excited
Yeah,
to see where it all goes. As,
Thanks for coming on too, being a guest of the podcast. Really enjoyed, especially we had a reflection over the Twin Towers falling and 20 years after that, and as well as some of the work that you've done on the Symbolic World blog. Actually, so here's a little secret. So some of the things that you said then, especially referring to David Flores and the artwork that he did to your the article, Thine Own of Thine Own.
Yeah.
So like climbing that ladder and each rung being like a veil that requires some type of sacrifice, specific sacrifice in order to progress to the next level. That's making its way into the Arrival in Exodus book. And so,
nice.
yeah, so at least the concept and how it fits into that story. But I was totally reflecting on that and was like, oh, what's the answer to this? And I was like, oh my gosh, Gareth told me like 2 years ago.
So sometimes I say worthwhile things. Maybe not most of the time, but every now and then something worthwhile sneaks through.
Yeah. All right, you guys, let's go and wrap it up. Thank you everyone for being here. I can't thank you enough. 2,000 subscribers. I mean, if you were to fill a room with 2,000 people, like that's just, it blows my mind. So much more to come. Thank you so much for all of these 5 years of encouragement and your attention, being guests on the podcast, working on projects together. I've just made so many amazing friendships and met so many inspiring people. So yeah, thank you, Astercius and Marvin, Hyland, David. Yeah, thank you for the artwork and working together. Andrew, I love you, Andrew. Thank you for popping on. One of the very early guests of the podcast and long-term friend. Andrew is the one that is, he's the one that's crazy enough to go on backpacking trips with me. I think we're about 4 or 5 years streak going here every year. All right.
So
yeah. Thank
Derek,
you so
I
much.
was real quick. I was thinking during the stream back in the early days of the Symbolic World and the Zombie Apocalypse Facebook group.
Yeah.
Remember those days? I remember when you joined that group. I don't remember
Really?
what you were. I don't remember what you were posting about, but I remember me and a few other folks messaging back and forth, kind of behind the scenes, like, who's this Derek guy? Where'd he come from?
Who is that guy? Man.
Thinking he's got insights. Questions.
But,
yeah, I don't think about that old Facebook group very often, but I did. There were some fun times there back in the old days with the
Oh, yeah.
with the OG crew, Jacob Russell and
Jake,
everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, I just spoke with Jacob or messaged him a little bit. So
Yeah.
shout out to Jacob.
He's a good guy.
You know, his conversation with Jonathan on the Nephilim is it's a sleeper, man. It's still gaining views. It keeps popping up on my stream.
Yeah.
It's like the ghost in the algorithm is like, remember this? Remember this? Maybe we should rewatch this one. Yeah. All right, you guys, let's go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you very much. Appreciate the support, and we'll see you on future videos. Feel free to also subscribe over to Substack. I've been much more active over there, especially as I'm getting more into writing and some of the bigger projects. I'll be releasing kind of like behind the scenes, early drafts, other things. I opened up the paid support too. So thank you very much for those that are paid members, and a few that have bought the pre-sale of the handcrafted special edition of the book Arrival in Exodus. Yeah, just really great. Love you guys. Thank you very much. Till the next one.